Iran and Iraq fought an 8-year nightmare where victory never came, yet death reigned supreme. Cities burned, armies clashed in waves of blood, and the world watched. Over 1 million lives were lost, yet the borders didn't move. What drove these nations to such unthinkable devastation? Chapter 1: Revolution and Rising Tensions. The stage for one of the 20th century's deadliest conflicts was set long before the first shot. In 1979, Iran's revolution toppled the Shah and sent shockwaves across the Middle East. Suddenly, Saddam Hussein's Iraq faced a neighbour with a new revolutionary zeal, calling for Shia empowerment across borders. At the same time, the Shatt al-Arab waterway, Iraq's only outlet to the Persian Gulf, remained disputed. Saddam saw an opportunity. Iran was politically fractured, its military weakened by purges and restructuring. A swift strike could secure territory and oil fields in Khuzestan and neutralize a revolutionary threat before it grew. But Iraq underestimated the power of ideology over strategy. The Islamic Republic wasn't just defending land, it was defending its revolution. And the stage was set for 8 years of staggering death and destruction that would leave scars no map could erase. Chapter 2: Blitzkrieg Miscalculation. On September 22, 1980, Iraq launched a sudden strike on Tehran's Mehrabad airport and multiple airbases. Iraqi forces advanced rapidly, capturing Khorramshahr and besieging Abadan, expecting a quick victory. Instead, Iran refused to collapse. The IRGC and Besiege volunteers, often ordinary civilians, joined the fight. Cities became battlefields, civilians fought alongside soldiers, and death became constant. Could anyone have imagined a war intended to last weeks stretching into 8 years of relentless fighting? The clash between conventional military might and revolutionary determination quickly made the invasion a bloody stalemate. Iraq had strategy and weaponry, but Iran had sheer manpower, faith, and unity. By early 1981, both sides understood the war would not be won quickly. This was no longer a brief strike, it was a war of attrition, ideology, and sacrifice where ordinary people became warriors and cities turned into arenas of devastation. Chapter 3: Iranian counteroffensives. By 1982, Iran had regained key territory, including Khorramshahr, thanks to daring counteroffensives like Fath al-Mubin and Bait al-Muqaddas. But the victories came at a staggering human cost. The besieged militia, often teenagers and unarmed volunteers, were sent in human wave attacks against entrenched Iraqi positions. Thousands died in minefields and machine gun fire. Streets, fields, and villages became slaughterhouses, yet ideology drove these men to continue. Families mourned sons who marched into almost certain death, believing their sacrifice was sacred. Iran then crossed into Iraq, hoping to topple Saddam, only to find Iraqi defences formidable. Each offensive produced tens of thousands of casualties, minimal gains, and an entrenched stalemate. These years transformed the war from a territorial conflict into grinding attrition, a war where ideology, desperation, and sheer determination shaped outcomes more than strategy. The human toll was immense, and the narrative of martyrdom became deeply embedded in Iran's national consciousness, influencing generations to come. Chapter 4: Gulf waters under fire. With land battles stalemated, both sides targeted the Persian Gulf to cripple each other's economies. Iran relied on mines and small boats. Iraq attacked oil exports directly. Tankers burned, mines sank ships, and shipping routes became a deadly gamble. The conflict drew international powers into the fray. Kuwait requested US naval protection, leading to the reflagging of tankers and American escorts. France and the Soviet Union supplied Iraq with weapons, while Iran struggled under sanctions and limited external support. The Gulf became a floating battlefield, critical for the global oil trade. Mines, gunboats, and naval engagements turned commerce into combat zones, escalating the stakes beyond the region. The war, once local, now had global consequences. Strategic resources, geography, and international alliances are intertwined, showing that even a regional conflict can affect the balance of power worldwide, putting nations on edge and raising the risk of a broader confrontation. Chapter 5: Chemical Warfare and Escalation of Brutality. By the mid-1980s, Iraq began using chemical weapons, unleashing mustard gas, sarin, and tabun on Iranian troops and civilians. Tens of thousands died, and survivors endured lifelong suffering. The Halabja massacre in 1988 claimed around 5,000 civilian lives. The world largely remained silent, sanctions were minimal, and Iraq continued its attacks with impunity. Could the war get any more horrifying? Iraq's chemical campaigns turned entire battlefields into zones of indiscriminate death. Soldiers and civilians were equally vulnerable, hospitals became dangerous, and entire towns became uninhabitable. This was the darkest escalation of the Iran-Iraq War. The psychological and physical scars shaped Iranian memory, creating a national narrative of vigilance and resilience. These atrocities served as a stark warning of what unchecked conflict can become and why the lessons of this war still resonate across the world today. Chapter 6: Diplomacy, Ceasefire, and Exhaustion. By the late 1980s, both nations were exhausted. Iran's economy and population were strained after years of relentless fighting. Iraq, reinforced by international allies, launched final offensives, recapturing the Four Peninsula and other key positions. Meanwhile, US naval forces operated in the Gulf, heightening pressure on Iran. The tragic shooting of Iran Air Flight 655 further demonstrated the dangers of foreign involvement. Finally, Iran accepted UN Security Council Resolution 598, bringing an official ceasefire on August 20th, 1988. Borders remained unchanged, regimes intact, and yet the human, economic, and social costs were staggering. The war ended, but the scars were permanent. Cities lay in ruins, populations were decimated, and economies drained. What appeared as a stalemate on maps had been an unprecedented human catastrophe, leaving both nations to grapple with the consequences for decades to come. Chapter 7: Lives Lost and a Region Transformed. The Iran-Iraq War left hundreds of thousands dead, millions wounded, and countless Basij volunteers gone. Cities like Khorramshahr and Abadan lay in ruins, economies were shattered, and both nations faced immense rebuilding challenges. Institutions shifted. The IRGC became a dominant military and political force in Iran, while Iraq, burdened with debt, later invaded Kuwait, triggering the Gulf War. Does a war that changes nothing on the map still transform a region? Absolutely. Its deep economic, psychological, and political scars reshaped alliances, inspired proxy conflicts, and influenced ideology-driven military strategies. Even decades later, the war's consequences ripple through the Middle East. Its legacy reminds us that the impact of conflict is measured not only in territory, but in generations shaped, institutions built, and memories that refuse to fade. The Iran-Iraq War didn't just change borders, it reshaped the minds, lives, and future of an entire region. If you want to uncover the stories history tried to hide, hit subscribe and join us on a journey through the events that shaped the world in ways textbooks never tell.